Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We'll be right back with today's guest, but first let's hear from our podcast sponsors. We want to thank Final Forms for their support of the Educational AD Podcast. Final Forms is the industry leader in athletic registration. But you got to know this, Final Forms is more than just forms. Final Forms is a team, it's technology, and it's a service for schools in areas like compliance, communication, and risk management solutions. Final Forms can help your stakeholders with mobile accessibility and reminders to parents about policies, physicals, and athletic forms. It can help with team communication, attendance, and certification management for coaches, and even eligibility rosters and reports for athletic directors. It can also give you secure language translation and ADA compliance. It's time for you to talk with a team that's walked in your shoes. To take the next steps and find out what Final Forms can do for you, go to finalforms.com/Jake. That's finalforms.com/Jake to find out exactly what they can do for you. We also want to thank Sideline Interactive for their support. You know, it's becoming harder and harder to fund an athletic department, but Sideline Interactive's indoor scoring tables and video boards can generate $10,000 or more every year, while also creating excitement in the gym and the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and check out their web tables and scoreboards in action. You can also call them at 832-786-0302 to schedule a live web demo. Email them at sales@sidelineinteractive.com and find out exactly what their fantastic products can do for you. That's sales@sidelineinteractive.com. We also want to thank Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. You know, they are on a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. They provide a variety of interactive touchscreen video consoles and an extensive library of templates to make it easier than ever to recognize the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present. For ideas on how to showcase your school's diverse history, along with your proudest moments, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Or to learn more and get started with your digital Wall of Fame tribute, call them at 614-981-3589, or you can email them at sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. That's sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. We also want to thank Huddle for their support. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. Over 180,000 teams, including some of the best in the world, use Huddle to elevate the performance of their teams using video and analytics. Huddle is the complete performance platform. They have online tools, mobile and desktop apps, smart cameras like the Huddle Focus. Of course, there's analytics and a whole lot more. Huddle's also built for every level of play, from club and youth teams all the way through high school and college programs. And even the pros use Huddle to help their teams play better. You're in pretty good company with over 6 million users, a lot of their, including your students. A lot of their parents also use Huddle. And of course, the coaches of the college teams that you're trying to get your kids recruited to are Huddle users. If you want to find out more about what Huddle can do for you and how your school can become a Huddle school, go to huddle.com and talk to their professionals. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. We also want to thank Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack for sponsoring the Athletic Director Toolbox segment of our podcast. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack are a quick, easy, and affordable way for you to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your athletic program. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack also connects you with the 95% of the parents and the student athletes who really love your program. And it gives them a voice to help demonstrate the importance that a positive athletic experience has for them. Go to athleticsurveys.com and check out their testimonials, and then give them a call at 1-800-738-6888. 888-888-6466, or you can email them at info@athleticsurveys.com to get started. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your parents or your student athletes, you're really missing out. Talk to the folks at Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack and let them show you how to take your athletic program from good to great. We also want to thank Violet Defense. Violet Defense is dedicated to protecting our world from germs by bringing the power of UV disinfection to everyday spaces. Their patented technology enables them to harness the power of the sun to incorporate ultraviolet light in products and environments like never before. Whether you're ready to implement existing products, or if you'd like to explore researching and developing a custom deployment of their technology for your school, Violet Defense has the solutions and the experience you need. Go to violetdefense.com for more information about their great products. And we also want to thank Hometown Ticketing for their support of the podcast. Hometown Ticketing is the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. You can find out more about what Hometown Ticketing can do for you and your program by going to hometownticketing.com. Hometown Ticketing, simple and easy online ticketing. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We're going to North Carolina today and visit with Joshua Harris. Joshua is the athletic director at West Charlotte High School in Charlotte, North Carolina. He and I connected at the recent NADC conference in Denver, and he's actually celebrating today. His basketball team over the weekend won the state championship. So congratulations and welcome, Joshua Harris.
Thank you so much. Thank you for, the congratulating us, and thank you for having me.
Well, we're excited to find out what's going on at your school and in your area, and let's go and jump right into it. We always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us that 5-minute bio, where you were born and grew up, and kind of how your path has led you to your current position.
Okay. Born and raised in Charlotte, North Carolina. I graduated from Hopewell High School, first senior class in 2003. Had the opportunity to go play college football at Gardner-Webb. Was a cornerback, played there for 2 years. Then I transferred to North Carolina A&T, Aggie Pride. I finished my last 2 years there, graduated with a Bachelor of Arts degree in English. Got into education right after I graduated, English teacher. Got into coaching through Mike Minner, that played for the Carolina Panthers. He's the one that got me into coaching in 2010. Been teaching since 2010. Had a 4-year stint as the head coach at West Charlotte High School, where I am. Got into the AD role. Definitely was not looking for that role. My principal at the time, Dr. Barnes-Jones, wanted me to kind of stretch my leadership. She saw more in me. I was just okay with being a football coach, but she told me there was more in me in terms of, being a leader at this school. And then around that same time, my AD, John Usick, he was ready to retire. And he said, I'm only going to retire if you take my spot. So that's kind of how I got into the AD role. Didn't think I was going to be an AD. I was definitely happy with being a coach for the rest of my life, as far as coaching football. But, everything happens for a reason, and, just kind of living my best life right now as an AD, having a ball.
Oh, well, I always love to hear the stories, and I could definitely relate. A long time ago, that's how I got my first job as an AD. The principal came in, it was like the second day of school, and said, hey, guess what? You're the new athletic director, because the previous one had left for another job. So trial by fire, great stuff. Walk us through just a little bit of your state championship. That's got to be a tremendous, really rewarding experience for you as an AD to see one of your teams and programs perform at the highest level.
So, the significant and the unique thing about, this state championship. So we're a historic school in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's nationwide. We call it, Lion Pride is nationwide. We have West Charlotte alum, West Charlotte Lions everywhere, across the globe. But the significant piece about this is the last year we're going to be in our old building, as historic as it is. We're getting a brand new school. We move in June, and basketball is a big pillar, for our school and our community. And to be able to win the last year we're going to be in this historic school, moving into the new school. As a school, we couldn't have asked for a better ending. Finishing out, with a win in our gym, making a state run. We even had, we're making a little mini documentary. So having a documentary, finishing it off with a state championship to take us in a new building, it's just been amazing. You can only write that definitely in a story. So definitely excited about that.
Again, just one of the great things about high school sports, those championship moments. So I guess now you got to start thinking about who's going to play you in the Hollywood movie. Okay.
Oh man, that'll be great to happen. That'll be great.
Okay. I mean, the way things are going, it's got to be Will Smith. He's been in everything. So, Richard Williams and then Joshua Harris. Okay. For our listeners, we're visiting with Joshua Harris. He's the athletic director at West Charlotte High School, state champions in Charlotte, North Carolina. We're going to take a quick break, but we'll be back with some more. Please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to thank Final Forms for their support of the Educational AD Podcast. Final Forms is the leader in athletic registration, but you got to know this. Final Forms is more than just forms. Final Forms is a team, it's technology, and it's a service for schools in the area of compliance, communication, and even risk management. Final Forms can help your stakeholders through mobile accessibility, also has reminders for parents about policies, about physicals, about athletic forms, can help with team communication, attendance, and even certification management for coaches. For ADs, can help with eligibility, help with rosters, and all the reports that come across your desk. Plus, it has secure language and ADA compliance. It's time for you to talk with a team that's walked in your shoes. To take the next steps and find out exactly what Final Forms can do for you, go to finalforms.com/Jake. Once again, go to finalforms.com/Jake and find out exactly what Final Forms can do for you.
Work.
Welcome back. We're visiting with Joshua Harris, the athletic director at West Charlotte High School in Charlotte, North Carolina. Coach, take us through, maybe those first weeks, months, or years, making the transition from coach to athletic director. Sitting on the other side of the desk is always a new experience. So, how was that for you taking over?
It was definitely interesting. So I got hired on March 13th. That same day, our school district shut down for COVID. So I got hired the day we shut down for COVID. My first months, weeks on the job were at home behind a computer doing everything via Zoom. Trying to plan. We were in transition of picking a football coach because I stepped down as the football coach. In our district, we can't do both.
Right.
So I had to hire, we had to hire a football coach during COVID via Zoom. So, that was interesting. We brought in a phenomenal coach, but we hired him kind of late. It was in the summer. School was getting ready to start. And with our district, we didn't know, if we were going to do a fall season or a spring season. So that was definitely interesting, helping him out. I was more hands-on with football just because he was new. We could probably count on two hands how many practices he had a chance to, actually be around his new group before the season actually started. So that first year, learned a lot. We definitely learned a lot, learned how to be flexible because, with the different, information we were getting from COVID, we were having to change things daily to make sure, the students and the staff stay healthy. So the COVID year was definitely interesting. I felt like I was a 3-year vet after COVID, pretty much. I felt like a veteran AD, after COVID, but I had help from all the ADs in Charlotte. We have a very close circle. So everybody was kind of helping each other out. Even though we're still in COVID, obviously the second year, some of the restrictions got lifted. The hardest part was not coaching the first couple of games for football. I'm doing admin work, logistics, but then I see something. I had to make sure I stood in the back of the track. I made myself stand in the back of the track so I wouldn't run on the field. and start coaching. But that was probably the hardest transition when the games got real tight and the crowd got involved, and it came down to coaching, who could call the best play, who could get their players to execute. I missed that part about coaching. But the transition has been wonderful. One of the reasons why I took the AD job was to focus on the things outside of coaching. A lot of coaches, they know it. Coaching is not easy. People on the outside only see what you do either on the court or the field. They don't see how hard coaches work behind the scenes. And, me being an AD, I can focus on, the mental health and the well-being of the athletes more and not necessarily have to worry about putting the game plan together. I've had some experiences, with teams and students, and, my heart was geared more towards that mental health piece, making sure their well-being was straight. So being in the AD role, I'm just, an extra buffer for the coaches to where they can still do both, but they can focus on the wins and losses. I'm just here to support them. But, I look at the other things about the mood of the student athlete, kind of what they're going through at home, very invested in their schoolwork. So being an AD, I've become more flexible in terms of the things that I really, want to put energy and efforts to.
You're absolutely right. And I can certainly relate to that as a longtime football coach and track coach before I became an AD. And actually, I had both roles for a while. Tough to walk away from the sidelines, but as you mentioned, there's other areas of the athletic experience that you get to have an impact on that sometimes you don't get to as a head coach, because you are doing those logistical coaching decisions and rosters and game planning and all that. So very, very cool stuff. Once again, for our listeners, we're visiting with Joshua Harris. He's the athletic director at West Charlotte High School in Charlotte, North Carolina. We're going to take another quick break. Please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We also want to say thanks to Huddle for their support. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. Over 180,000 teams, including some of the best in the world, use Huddle to elevate the performance of their teams using video and analytics. Huddle's the complete performance platform. They have online tools, mobile and desktop apps, smart cameras like the Huddle Focus. Of course, there's analytics and a whole lot more. Huddle's also built for every level of play, from club and youth teams all the way through high school and college programs, and even the pros are using Huddle to help their athletes play better. You're in pretty good company with over 6 million users, including your student athletes, a lot of their parents, and the coaches of the college teams you're trying to get to recruit your kids. If you want to find out more about what Huddle can do for you and your program and how your school can become a Huddle school, go to huddle.com and talk to their professionals. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. We're visiting with Joshua Harris from West Charlotte, North Carolina. Coach, we always ask our guests about the mentors that they've had in their life. None of us get to where we're at on our own. There's usually someone or a lot of people pushing us. So who are some of the people that pushed you and helped you along the way?
I would say my mom, my grandmother, my uncle, single parent. Mom raised me, but had great support from my grandmother, my uncle. My uncle is like my father, so I call him like a father uncle. So those are the three important people, that had a major impact on my life. As far as coaches, man, I have two. Mike Minner, the legendary Carolina Panther. He's the current head coach at Campbell University. He's the one that gave me my first coaching job in high school. I was able to win 2 state championships with him as a coach. Then Stephen Aycock, he was the former coach at Johnson C. Smith University. So he was the first coach to give me my first college job as a corners coach. Those two men mean a lot to me. Number one, they kind of got me in the door and the path I'm on. But it's just the way they coached their teams. They believed in family. They never cursed. They never used curse words. Very motivational. They can get anybody to run through a brick wall. But they were just like father figures to the guys. They made everybody feel like family. And, I still talk to them to this day, for advice. Then I would just say, as far as like leaders or bosses, definitely my former principal, Dr. Barnes-Jones. I mean, without her vision or her seeing stuff in me, I probably wouldn't even be a head coach, because she's the one that hired me as a head coach as well. And, you know, my current principal now, Mr. Donovan Hoskins, he's been great as far as kind of nurturing and helping me grow as a leader, you know, and, you know, giving me points about leadership, things of that nature. So those would be the people that I definitely applaud, you know, in terms of the development and where I'm going.
Oh, absolutely. And it's so cool that it's, you know, it sounds like most of them are still out there, still available for you to reach out to and have, let's say, an adult relationship, but also that mentoring relationship. So very cool.
And I have one more. His name is Jeremy Boone. He's the director of athletes by design. I entered his leadership, I'll call it school, and you know, we've been like brothers ever since. He definitely pushes me daily as far as leaderships, you know, having those uncomfortable conversations, you know, that leaders have to have. So he's been a great coach, and helping me prepare and grow as a leader. So I definitely want to give him a shout out.
Oh, by all means, Jeremy's a frequent contributor to the NIAAA's leadership cohort program, which I had an opportunity to go through a couple of years ago. Great resource for ADs and coaches. Let's talk a little bit about NIAAA. As we mentioned, you and I met at this year's NADA conference. We get a lot of young new ADs and even older ones that are new to the NIAAA experience. So share a little bit about how you first became aware of NIAAA and maybe how it's helped you since you've gotten involved.
So my interim year, so maybe about 4 years ago, I was the interim AD. Well, I was the assistant AD, even as a football coach in the winter and the spring sports. My AD at the time, Coach Usyk, he couldn't make it, so he suggested I go. My first conference was in Maryland. I went to the one in Maryland as an assistant AD, and I had a ball, you know, being able to hang with all the ADs in Charlotte, getting to pick their brains a little bit more, and just meeting all the ADs across the world. I was in one of the classes, and somebody in my group was from Israel, and just to see the reach of, you know, how long the reach is with ADs has been amazing. Obviously, we didn't get to go to Tampa last year, you know, due to COVID. So the one in Denver was my second one. And, you know, it's about the networking. I got to meet a lot of ADs in Georgia. You know, we joke Georgia's definitely a football state. So kind of pick their brains and how they run their programs. Met some people from Florida. So just meeting ADs all over, kind of picking their brains to see, you know, how they run things, you know, where they stay, but also talking about all the things we have in common. So, you know, that conference, you know, being a part of that organization has been great, you know, in my young tenure of being an athletic director.
No, absolutely. The networking is, you know, I don't know if you can say it's the most important thing, but it's certainly, you know, up there in the top 3 or 4 things. Speaking of networking, we're going to do this at the end of the podcast, but if one of our listeners wanted to reach out and pick your brain, network with you, what's the best way that they can get a hold of you?
So my Twitter, I'm a frequent Twitter person. My Twitter handle is Coach _Harris, HARRIS. Or you could go at Harris_coach, at Harris_coach. My bio has me with football headphones on, and my background says, hustle till your haters want you to hire them. So yeah, that's my Twitter.
I love that.
Harris_coach.
Yeah,
I just got on Instagram. I'm kind of new to Instagram. I got to keep up with the times with my students. So my Instagram is just JEHARRI85, and Joshua Harris is just my regular name. So those are the 2 social media platforms that I'm on the most for coaching.
All right. Joshua Harris, hustle till your haters want to hire you. That's a t-shirt, my friend. Okay. All right. We're going to take a quick break. Again, we're visiting with Joshua Harris. Please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to thank Sideline Interactive for their support of the Educational AD Podcast. You know, it's becoming harder and harder to fund an athletic department, but Sideline Interactive's indoor scoring tables and video boards can generate $10,000 or more every single year, while also creating excitement in the gym and the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. Go to sidelineinteractive.com, or you can call them at 832-786-0302 to schedule a live web demo and see their tables and boards in action. You can also email them at sales@sidelineinteractive.com and find out exactly what these fantastic products can do for you. That's sales@sidelineinteractive.com. Welcome back to the Educational AD Podcast. Coach, this is the time where we try to share some best practices. So I'm going to put you on the spot. What are some things that when you take a look at your program, let's say with equal parts pride and humility, that you can share some things that you can say, boy, we really do a great job with this. Do you have any best practices you can share?
We do a great job in investing in our staff and our athletes, our students. Our motto is we just a family. I really preach family first. Everyone, whether they're a coach or a student, they're loved. And it's contagious through our whole school. Starts from administration, starts from the teachers. We're like a close-knit family. It's constant communication. I sent out an email this morning, telling the staff that this championship is just as much as theirs as it is the students, because without the staff, the students wouldn't be playing ball, in terms of the reinforcement with discipline, the reinforcement with schoolwork. One of the things that help us, to have high academic standards. We have about 30 teachers that stay after school 2 times a week for study hall just for the athletes. So we send, they're invested in study hall. We have about 2 teachers in every subject. They go to the media center. We send our athletes there. So, constantly, on the grades. We have some organizations that come in once a week. And it's just kind of like just chalk talk. We talk about life outside of sports. So that's been very helpful. We had 2 guys, Pastor Kanan and a guy named Young Citizen. So one is an independent artist and one is a pastor. They merged together and formed an organization called Ready Citizens. And they came once a week just to talk to the athletes about life. And once that started going, that just kind of opened the floodgates in terms of the growth we had in terms of our, the performance. And their conversations had nothing to do with playing on the court, playing on the baseball field or playing on the football field. It was just about life, character, talking about respect, just talking about real life issues that students go through. And it was an opportunity for our athletes to kind of just be kids and not have to worry about the X's and O's. And, they were getting things off their chest, starting to bond. So it just translated to the field. It was almost like it was contagious. So that's something I want to brag about, just the effort our community and our staff, they put back into athletics outside of just, performing on the field or the court.
Well, when you have that kind of buy-in from your faculty and the community, I don't want to say you got it made, but boy, you've really, broken through. There's a ton of ADs around the country that would like to have that sort of buy-in. Great job. Obviously, that's a reflection of your leadership and helping that develop. We're going to take another quick break. This is Joshua Harris from West Charlotte High School in Charlotte, North Carolina. Please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We also want to thank Wall of Fame by Vital Signs for their support of the Educational AD Podcast. Vital Signs is on a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. They provide a variety of interactive touchscreen video consoles, along with an extensive library of templates to make it easier than ever to recognize the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present. For ideas on how to showcase your school's diverse history, along with your proudest moments, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Or to get started with your own digital Wall of Fame tribute, call them at 614-981-3589, or you can email them at sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. That's sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. And welcome back to the Educational AD Podcast. Coach, this is the time of the podcast where I ask a tough question. 100 years ago, when I was in high school, it was very common for my coaches to say something like, come on, guys, you got to be tough, or come on, Jake, you got to suck it up. And we knew what they meant. But I think over the years, we figured out better ways to communicate with athletes and try to, help them to become tougher, because toughness is such an important part of sports and even life. So my question to you is, how can an AD or a coach help a kid today to become tough while also being aware of and sensitive to the very real social emotional challenges that a Generation Z kid is going through? Do you have any advice for us?
So number one, it kind of piggybacks on what I said earlier. We talk to our kids. Obviously with sports, you have to be tough to play sports, whether it's physical, it's physically exhausting, mentally. So I think, it's a two-part. You got to teach them to be able to finish the game, to be tough. Obviously we know that you can learn a lot of life lessons, in sports, perseverance, not quitting, giving up. And a lot of those times we relate that to what they're going on, in their personal lives. The fortunate thing, we've been blessed that, our students, they come to us about anything that they have going on. We've developed that relationship with our athletes. So we're able to coach them hard on the field and the court. But then when we have those conversations outside of practice, we focus on life in terms of, listen, it's okay to feel this way. This is life. And we share some of our stories. I think any educator and coach can think, sometimes our athletes think we're perfect. They don't realize that we've gone through things. And as adults, we go through things even when we're coaching them, and we just don't tell them. But, we do a great job in sharing our personal stories in terms of, when I was your age, when I was in college, I went through this. Oh, you did, coach? Yes. So it's just, what we do here, every situation is not great, but we tell our teams to make a positive out of everything. Take a positive out of everything. What is one small positive you can get out of that day? And our athletes have done a great job. I talked to a guy, our center. We have a center. He's 6'10". He tore his ACL in the championship game. He made it to the fourth quarter, came down wrong, tore his ACL, and in the locker room when he was holding the trophy, he looked at me. He was just like, "Coach, I hurt my knee," but he said, "We won, so I got to take the small things." So we constantly tell our kids, hey, if it's just this small, it's still positive. So that's what we've done. Like I said, when we are off the field and out of the film room, we actually talk to them about life. And that just kind of opens up the conversation and dialogue, letting them know it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to have these thoughts. It's life. You're still growing. That's what kind of makes this world go round. Everybody has something different. Everybody has a testimony. We've told some of our athletes, some of the things you guys have gone through, we couldn't walk in your shoes. But my pastor told me, one of my pastor told me one time, a lot of things you go through is not necessarily for you. It's, it's to be able to help someone else in the future. And, we wrap that around. So, but we just take a positive out of everything, one small positive thing. So that's kind of how we, balance the, being tough in the game, but also, knowing you can be vulnerable and being a human as well.
Well, absolutely. You're taking me back to my own high school days. Like I said, 100 years ago, our football coach would always talk about turn a minus into a plus. And just really appreciate you sharing. And your point is, communicating with the kids, building that relationship, that's how you help them, become tough in their own way. Great stuff.
Thank you so much.
Coach, this has been really cool getting to know you. We didn't get to talk that much in Denver, other than to set this up, but I've enjoyed hearing about your program and about you, but we're not done yet. We always like to end with our Athletic Director Toolbox segment, which is sponsored by Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack. We're going to hear from Athletic Surveys, but when we come back, I'm going to ask you to send out a brand new athletic director, but I'm only going to let you put 3 things in their toolbox. So let's hear from Athletic Surveys, and then we're going to find out what's going to go in Joshua Harris's Athletic Director Toolbox. Please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to thank Athletic Surveys for their support of the Educational AD Podcast and the AD Toolbox segment. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack are a quick, easy, and affordable way for you to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your entire athletic program. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack also connects you with the 95% of the parents and the student athletes who really love your program. And it gives them a voice to help demonstrate the importance that a positive athletic experience has for them. Go to athleticsurveys.com and check out their testimonials, and then give them a call at 1-800-738-6466, or you can email them at info@athleticsurveys.com to get started. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your parents or your student athletes, you're really missing out. Talk to the pros at Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack and let them show you how to take your athletic program from good to great. Hey, welcome back, everyone. We've been visiting with Joshua Harris from West Charlotte High School. His basketball team just won the state championship, so certainly he's got a lot of wisdom. But right now we're going to ask him to send out a brand new athletic director, but I'm only going to let him put 3 things in their toolbox. Joshua Harris, what 3 items are going to go in your athletic director toolbox?
The first one will be support. That support could be, an admin team. It could be someone outside of athletics, but I think a brand new athletic director needs a support system. Someone they can relate to. I have a big support system, but, the other athletic directors in my conference have been my support system as far as this job. One of the reasons I love being an athletic director, for the athletic directors in my conference, there's no ego. And that's what I've learned about my 2 years of being an athletic director, even going to the conference. Yes, you want your school to be the best. Yes, you want your school to win, but it's not like some sports where it's ego driven. I can't talk to you. I can't help you out. That's one thing I love about the ADs in Charlotte, North Carolina, in our high school. We have 19 schools, and I can call any AD, and if they don't have the answer, they'll find it within 10 minutes. So the first thing would definitely be support, because this job, it can get very busy. I'll use busy. It could definitely get busy. You have to wear a lot of hats. Number 2, what I'll put in the toolbox is rest time. Definitely rest time. A lot of times as ADs, we're driven. We pretty much work all year long, but you have to have some time where you can just rest and relax. Our minds are always going. While a coach may be planning A and B, as an AD, we're planning A through Z. We're planning short-term goals, long-term goals, 5 years from now, 3 years from now. So just a time to rest. Definitely just a time to rest. And this third one, a calendar on the board. That's a material thing. I've learned as an AD, a calendar, multiple calendars has probably become my best friend, because you have so much, stuff to do throughout the day. But just having a calendar that's visible to where you can at least check off 3 things that you can get done. So those would be my 3 things: support, rest, and a calendar.
Well, those are all very cool tools. I remember I would tell my coaches, you might have a game on your schedule. It might be on the website, but if it's not on my calendar, my old school calendar, that game doesn't exist. So absolutely. Coach, if one of our listeners wanted to reach out and pick your brain, we did this earlier, but what's the best way that they can get in touch with you and find out more about some of the things that you're doing at your school?
I would say Twitter for coaching purposes. Twitter is @Harris_coach, @Harris_coach. My profile pic is me coaching. I have hair, so it's me, but I have a headset when I was coaching football. And my background, it says hustle until your haters ask if you're hiring. That's my background. So if you find that, it's me. But that's probably, I'm on Twitter most of the time for coaching purposes.
Okay. Joshua Harris, West Charlotte High School Athletic Director. Thanks so much for being on the podcast today.
Can I give one more shout out?
Absolutely.
So I have to give a shout out to, it's 4 people. My new area district AD, Erica Turner. She just recently, took over the job leading all the ADs in our school system. She has been amazing in this short time. She's the type of leader. If we call her to need, for a game to come work, she has been there every time. So she's definitely done a great job leading by example and being supportive and helping us grow and pushing us to go to the conferences to get all our classes and certifications. So she's been wonderful. To her, the assistant area athletic director, Steve Robinson, he's been amazing. He's been amazing in the process of, we're getting a new school. So he's been over here a couple of times to walk to school with me to make sure, I get the right equipment, for the athlete, the athletic program. And last but not least, my pastors at my church, Pastor Show and Pastor Cole, co-pastor, Have Life Church. They've been a very big support to my athletic program in terms of whether it be prayer, food, coming to the game support. And so I definitely want to give a shout out to those people.
No, absolutely. And make sure you share, the link for your interview so they can hear it. Steve's been a guest on the podcast. You know that.
Okay.
So I'm going to come back at you and say, you need to reach out to Erica and give her my contact information, have her shoot me an email. We'll get her on the podcast too.
I will. I definitely will.
For our listeners, remember the Zoom recordings of all of our interviews are uploaded to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We appreciate you listening today. Come back again next time for another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. Finally, we want to thank Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. You can find out more about what Hometown Ticketing can do for you and your program by going to hometownticketing.com and talk to their professionals. Hometown Ticketing, simple and easy online ticketing.